Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Friday, July 19th, and it is time for the Ghost Files. I hope everyone had a great week. Let me get the comments going on right back here in a second after I put on my little logo. There we go. Chat's filling up. I saw Davey Deathray in there early. He did a review of Longlegs, I think yesterday or the day before, and he really loved it. So I haven't watched the thing yet. Davey, I've been running around for the last couple of days, but I did see some of the feedback that you got. So congratulations on that. Baby Boy Blue is here asking about some digital stuff. Answers in the comments. Hey, what's up, Alley Girl? Nito Undead is here, of course, our chat moderator. If you have any questions, ask them and they will help you do it. As remember, always subscribe, like this video. Anybody who wants to get a question to the top of the pile this week, that's what the super chats are for. I'll see it right away. It will get started, and I won't miss it in the amount of chats that come in through the entire thing. So, yeah, I hope everyone had a great week. This week, we're going to talk about Longlegs, directed by Oz Perkins, which has taken the world by storm. It's a neon-released independent horror feature film. Let me see if I can look at the budget real quick. I haven't seen it. Budget was under 10 million, and so far it's brought in about 35. I got to see it yesterday. Power went out in the neighborhood, and so me and my girlfriend Mo walked over to Providence Place and caught a screening of it last night, which was really nice. And we're going to dive into this very creepy and weird film, which what would you expect from the same director as The Black Coat's Daughter, which is another film that I love. Was directed by a good friend of mine, Christopher, or Christian, and was really great. So let's talk about it this week. First of all, in the chat, has everyone seen it yet? I won't dive into spoilers first. We'll talk about the overall likes and dislikes. It was a hour and 40 minutes, and it sort of feels around that. I think with Longlegs, it was one you have to really invest in. And I think seeing Black Coat's Daughter, I sort of knew that about Osgood Perkins, about the fact that he does like a slow burn. And this film is very much that. I think that there is a lot of investigating and figuring out little pieces. And, as the film goes on, the pieces of information that are delivered you are in small little chunks to help you put together the puzzle that basically unravels at the end of the film, just like any good movie. I thought the way that it was done in this film was honestly the least interesting part. I thought the most interesting part of the movie were the characters themselves. And I almost found myself forgetting that it was about serial killers, because every time these actors were on screen talking to each other and having conversations, sometimes it was about what was going on, but there was a lot of like interconnected, just casual conversation. And that's one of the things I really liked about the movie is I thought that it was very acted well. I thought all the characters felt really real. Maika Monroe leading the way as Detective or Special Agent Lee Harkin, who, I believe did a fantastic job. And I think if I'm starting off with the things that are great about this movie, it would definitely be the cast. Everyone delivers a great performance. And of course, Nick Cage coming in as Longlegs, he's going to do something interesting and crazy. And he definitely did that. He brought that again to this great little indie neon film. And it's nice to see. I mean, this has now become a commonplace. It's pretty cool. Nick Cage, in these independent films, he's just knocking them out one after the other and then knocking it out of the park because everything is so different. It's the range that he's doing. And it's, I think one of the things that really helped this film do so well was the marketing campaign. The marketing campaign for this was brilliant. They dropped very little information about what the film was about along the way. They had very strong images, great cinematography, great photos. And so, it was very interesting. So I think there was a lot of curiosity going in the film. I think Neon did a really great job of creating curiosity to get people who normally wouldn't see a film like this into the theater. Now, what's going to happen when those people get into the theater? I think, I've seen some back and forth on Longlegs as far as like people thinking a certain way about the slowness and sort of the oddness of it, because it is an odd movie. And that sort of comes with, films like this. And I think that there is a horror fandom who knows and expects that as well. So I think for the common sort of moviegoer, this movie is going to be weird. You know what I mean? It's just going to be a weird movie, especially for like the people who are really straight-laced, all the satanic talk. There's a lot of satanic narrative into it. And there's a really good payoff with it as well. I think another great thing, anyone who subscribed to Fangoria got their Longlegs Fangoria this year. So I did not read the article yet. I like to see the movie first before I read the article because I hate spoilers. And I'm glad that I was able to see Longlegs in the theater before anything else was spoiled too much. That's why I'm going to be very reserved with my comments up front about the film. We can dive into some spoilers later if people want to tune out, towards the end of the podcast, and we'll talk about some of the nitty gritty of some of the things I liked and some of the things I love. But the other thing I really want to talk about in the film, obviously, being a camera guy, is that I love the cinematography. I thought the cinematography was another large standout of the film. The fact that it was shot in an interesting manner. Not just from the way that it was, from the way that it was blocked, from the way that it was lit, just from the choices of angles. There were a lot of widescreen close-ups, a lot of reverse single shots. There weren't, usually you see characters talking and the screen will shoot over the shoulder and things like that. I think that, Oz really sort of, when he had two people in frame, they were in frame, they were sharing frame, and they were sharing dialogue. And then when they were in an individual frame, they had their own frame and they were able to hold their own power. And I think that was a great choice for this film because each character is so unique and different, especially with Maika Monroe, playing opposite of Nick Cage as far as like sort of holding the power of the good and evil of the film. And then Brian Kavanaugh Jones acting as her partner on this, or the agent who's been on this case for a long time. And then the mother as well is amazing. I don't have her name in front of me right now, but there's a woman who plays Maika Monroe's mother who has a pretty big role in the film as well, who's really, really great. So, the other interesting thing about this movie is that, I was thinking about this earlier today, is that, in film, the cost, they're above the line and they're below the line. So above the line, you have people like Nick Cage, who has famously been, you famously hear that like it's $1 million just for him to read your script. And I think it's another $1 million for him to be in a film like this. So knock $2 million off the budget right now. Who knows what else is going on as far as like above the line with, Oz Perkins is a name. So he's not a director who's going to work for scale unless he did because he just wanted it to get made. But above the line, I'm seeing there's probably a few million there. Maika Monroe is a name that you're bringing in. There's a lot of good names that they brought in for the films. There's some nice, I thought it was a nice cameo from Blackcoat's daughter. I won't spoil anything there, but there's a character that comes into play, not necessarily like the most important character, but it's a nice sort of meaty role that someone got that was a sort of a carryover from Blackcoat's, which I thought was really nice. And so below the line, when I looked at this film, like, first of all, like, I'm not saying it was an inexpensive film, but what I liked about the film is that, like, it is a film that could be made inexpensively. The places that they're shooting, the choices that they're making, they weren't in any place that was over the top crazy. I mean, it was very, casual and run of the mill, and they really made it feel like the middle of nowhere. I mean, I believe they were in Oregon, so they really made it feel like on the outskirts of Oregon, in the country. Like, it really felt that way. And if you're an independent filmmaker, this is a film to study, because if you look at the way that Oz Perkins and his cinematographer Andres Arachi covered this place, they did a great job of bringing the cinematic qualities of these places out. The types of locations they found, these are locations that are accessible. So what I love about this film is that it's got such a great, when you think about a film that's comparable, like Silence of the Lambs, it's just sort of in the same thriller, serial killer, horror movie type aspect. You're looking at something that's done on a similar level with the way that it's engaging. There's not as much star power because Silence of the Lambs is obviously a much bigger and more involved film, but to recreate that sort of essence at that level was really great. And then playing with some of the the lower budget side of things, being sub 10, the effects of what they did. I would say another great thing about the effects in this movie are really well done. I think the timing of some of the moments that sort of get you to jump or sort of unveil gore are really good. Like the execution of it is great. Like, I showed you the photo of the woman in the bed that comes up in the movie. There's a lot more to it than even what's on the cover of this magazine, which is really cool. I would say, with that said, one of the things I found that I was thinking about this as well earlier today is like when I watch a movie, I sort of have like chameleon eyes. I have one eye that's watching it as, Vin, the film lover, who's just sitting down to watch a movie, and then Vin, the producer director, analyzing the screen and wondering how they put things together and sort of like going back and forth. And I know that I was having fun breaking down the film the entire way, but it did take a while for things, I would say, to get juicy and things to really start to pick up the tension. And so with Longlegs, it sort of has to be like I think a frame of mind going in. If you go in knowing that, and you can prepare yourself for like a really, fun act 3 that I think, takes it to the limit, sort of like sets up all these premises, and then you see them sort of play out finally, which is really, really nice. And you see it, how it happens. And that's sort of the big mystery. Like, I think in Silence of the Lambs, and I think another one like The Bone Collector, and what's another great serial, like Seven, you know what I mean? Like throughout those movies, you're going from crime scene to crime scene to crime scene to crime scene. I think that's the one place where my mind was off with this. I thought that Maika Monroe, and Brian Kavanaugh Jones were going to be going from crime scene to crime scene to crime scene. And really there's only one crime scene in the movie. There's a bunch of previous crime scenes that they're investigating, and then they sort of build towards one last one towards the end. So the gap with anything actually happening in front of everyone sort of doesn't happen until an hour and 20, 25 minutes in the movie. So that's a lot of buildup for story. There's a lot of buildup for crosstalk and things. But again, along the way, the cast, the cinematography, sort of the mystery of it all sort of pulls you in. And then you get these really bright moments where Nick Cage comes on screen. And that's where the movie really shines, because you're letting Nick Cage kind of do what he loves. And I think that, one thing about that, though, is that I would say there's a couple of times where I felt the film almost go like, yeah, we're doing the Nick Cage thing, so let's throw a little extra Nick Cage in there. And it's like, and I think that was fine. And I think that was a choice, but I think those were moments where I felt like it was taking me out. It no longer felt natural. I believe there is a couple of, no, maybe that's because I was watching Dr. Giggles, and there was a fourth, then he breaks the fourth wall. Sorry, I'm crossing the two films. I actually watched both films on the same day. We can talk about Dr. Giggles another time, because I actually have a newfound respect for that movie. But we'll do that on another podcast another time. But yeah, so Nick Cage really shines his Longlegs, as you would expect. He delivers that performance that we know that's going to stand out. And his character is a real mystery, and we never really sort of learn too much about him, which is, for people who love horror movies that don't love things over explained, this film really doesn't do that. It really focuses on the facts that are in front of the investigators, and then sort of working towards each one of those facts as more things get uncovered, and our lead investigator starts to realize things about, even her own past and her relationship with, how she may be connected to Longlegs and all these things. So it's a really sort of fun little ride. It's just, you got to buckle in. You got to wait for like if you're there for the action doesn't really show up till the end. And that's where it shows up. And when you get there, you definitely it definitely comes through. It leads to a pretty horrific event. I will say that. So you have that to look forward to. So let me see. Let me jump into some comments. I see not a ton of people are in the chat tonight, but that's fine. So Dave, why don't you drop some thoughts in there? Adam, welcome to the show. I just kind of talked about Longlegs. Anyone who has sort of seen it or has anything to say about it, actually, Davey has said some stuff, so I'll bring some stuff up in a minute. Start leaving some comments about what your thoughts are. Ask some questions about maybe what you're wondering about the movie, if you're thinking about going to see it, and we'll kind of discuss it. So I'm going to jump in. So let's see. Bam, bam, bam. Here's Davey Deathray. Longlegs appeals to the horror hounds as well as the other folks of their 60s or 70s that will watch all of those crime thriller shows and new cop dramas. I think the folks in their 60s or 70s are going to be turned off by all the satanic speech. I'm not sure that's like really up their alley, because it leans heavy into Satanism and, having the devil. Oh, that was another effective thing. You do see sort of, and it may be in some of the trailers now, but you see the face of the devil in a couple of shots. And it's really cool. I think that was really effective. I thought that some of the editing was really effective. Actually, there were many scenes where, as I thought, like the film is very slowly paced purposely, but there are moments where the editing really gets to jump in and shine, and they cut in really interesting moments. They splice images together in really interesting ways. I thought the editorial was very crafty. And one of the things that I help brings you along for the ride. the marketing was completely brilliant. And it was the reason that Kate and I didn't want to overhype the film in our review. The film should speak for itself. Yeah, exactly. I think the film should speak to itself, because I can see normal theater goers going to this movie and not loving it because it's not your traditional film. And I think that that's actually a great thing. I think that what has been happening in Hollywood for so long is that they keep making the same film over and over and over again. And they keep expecting those same films to create the same results in the box office versus trying different things and new. And so there's something in Hollywood called 4-quadrant family films. And 4-quadrant means the young people, teenagers, middle-aged, and old people. It means everybody and anybody can come see this film and enjoy it. Is Longlegs that film? Obviously, kids shouldn't be watching this film. Teenagers might find it too boring, especially the TikTok generation. I think maybe some of the cinephiles that may be growing out of that thing may love it, but I don't see the TikTok generation loving it other than loving Nick Cage. And other than that, I can see people my age loving it because we grow up with those slow burn horrors, and sort of that's who it's sort of aimed at. And maybe some older horror files will love it, but I don't think the casual film goer of that general area would love it. I really think this is a film made for film nerds. I mean, ultimately it's film nerds and people who love, just art house sort of cinema. I think that that's who it's really built for. But what's nice in today's day and age is films like that did not have the reach that they do now. So, the A24s of the world, the Neons of the world, Focus, Searchlight, things like that. Those films really kind of had it. It was hard to find their footing back in the day. Now with social media and sort of the way that we consume media now, you're watching independent filmmakers find niche audiences faster. So think about all of your favorite 80s horror movies. Think about how many movies from the 80s or 90s you discovered 20 years later because you didn't happen to be in the pocket of distribution where that VHS tape or DVD landed because it went direct to video, and you discovered it many years later. We're skipping those steps now. We're no longer having those long period bouts between people discovering their films. They can discover everything right now and make a decision about it. And I think that even though Longlegs is definitely a niche art house horror crime thriller film, it has its audience, and Osgood has his audience built in from Black Coat's Daughter, and it's only going to grow from there. And it doesn't, it's doing well in theaters. 35 million on sub-million, $10 million budget. That P&A on that, because they have Longlegs everywhere, it has got to be up there in the millions. So that's probably where they spent a lot of money. But they did a great job. So it's paying off, and obviously that stuff. Let's see. Davey has another comment. Yes, the cinematography was unreal. The symmetry, the deliberate placement of the camera, it had the Kubrickian look, even felt a little bit like Wes Anderson from time to time. Exactly. That's sort of that's actually a great assessment. Like Osgood Perkins is like the Wes Anderson of horror. That's what you're going to get, the quirky horror, but it also finds a very dark tone and very dark results with its horror. Think about Black Coat's Daughter. Like this Longlegs finds that, and it finds really sick and twisted shit. And, it delivers on that thing while it also delivers something poignant and, the growth of the characters throughout the film. And especially Maika Monroe, she has this, beautiful, revelation throughout the movie, which really pays off in a big way, which also makes you go back and think about it and be like, wait a second, in a funny way, you know what I mean? And it makes a lot of sense. And I think they did a good job. There's an element of past and present in play in the film. I think there's a really good job of doing that. So, coming off of that, Neon, has done really, really well in the last few weeks. I believe, what was the other film Neon released recently that's kind of blowing up? Obviously A24, doing very well with Maxine, and I think it's nice. I think that art house horror really has found its niche now. We know what the returns are, so I think as moving forward as a filmmaker, I look at that and be like, hey, people are looking at films at like 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, and seeing that, especially in the horror genre. Not that this is any news to us, but for investors, that the horror genre is a place where you can go and make some money. You're not going to make Avengers. Everybody wants to make a Pixar film. everybody wants to make Marvel. Everybody wants a $1 billion return. Everybody wants to be James Cameron. But the problem is there are only so many James Camerons and Walt Disney and Jeffrey Katzenbergs in the world to actually pull that off. Everyone else needs to really kind of rein it in and focus on who their audience is. And I think Osgood Perkins knows who his audience is. He plays to that audience and his own sensibilities, which brings me to another point. Earlier on last week, after the release of Longlegs, and I actually had like a pretty decent start and people were talking positively about it, the social media of it all figured it would kind of throw its hat in to kind of stir some shit between Osgood Perkins and Ty West. And I don't know if you saw on my Twitter, but I did share some of that stuff and talked about it just a tiny bit. But Osgood Perkins basically had this quote saying that, like, at this day and age in life, he doesn't watch a lot of contemporary horror. He watches old films because that's what he's like. He's never seen Maxine. I think somebody may have asked him about it, so he couldn't really comment on it, but he didn't downgrade it. He just said that it just wasn't his jam, and that, he watches other stuff and he understands the point of, Maxine having its own fans and other projects having their own fans and all of those things. And of course, some outlet twisted those words and said, Osgood Perkins refuses to watch Maxine. And, it's so shitty that obviously negativity drives this. And if I was out here bashing Longlegs right now, I'm sure my viewer count would be at like 10 million because, misery loves company and all that stuff. But, I think that, that was a kind of a sad thing last week, just to see that somebody would try to do that. But it's nice to, it looks like we got a super chat. I'll jump to that in a second. But yeah, so that was just kind of crappy. But I'm glad that it didn't really catch any wind. It didn't seem like, I saw people in the comments being like, oh, it looks like someone's salty and blah, 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 jealous and all this stuff. And then you read the comment, you actually see it's very poignant and well-spoken, just like Osgood Perkins is. If anyone has ever sort of done any research on him or seen interviews or, behind the scenes with him, you see that he's a very, very focused, smart individual. And he wouldn't say anything, I think, emotionally out of context with, anything that has to do outside of this film. And if he's going to speak on film, I think he should be allowed to as well, because he's good at what he does. He's been in the industry for a long time. His father was Anthony Perkins, in one of the most famous horror films of all time, if not like the horror film of all time, Psycho. And then all the sequels too, which I believe Perkins directed, which is really cool. So, and that's obviously what I think the original quote, he was actually talking about his father in that quote, and Maxine sort of came up along the way. So if you do see that quote, you think he's talking shit, he wasn't. Just wanted to clear that up. I'm trying to think of what else I liked about the film. I just, I really like Brian Kavanaugh Jones. I thought he stole the show. He was really funny. Every time he came in, he did his business, but there was just something comedic about his balance with Maika Monroe always being so serious, who I think Maika was autistic. I think that's what they were trying to go with. There's like a hint of she's psychic in a way, but I think that she's just autistic for the way that she obsesses over things and kind of goes from there. But I thought that, pairing her with him, it was good screen chemistry, because it was sort of like, it reminded me of True Detective, where it was, Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey. And Brian Kavanaugh Jones was definitely our Woody Harrelson comic relief, kind of the more grounded individual, the family man, versus Maika Monroe, the sort of obsessed special agent who always seems to be, at the right place at the right time, getting into mischief and finding her way out of it. And, it's pretty cool. So let's jump into, well, I think Undead put up a super chat. So I just want to thank Undead. Undead, thank you. Thank you for that, jumping in. Really appreciate that. So let's go. I'm going to keep going down some things. Everybody's saying, who's on vacation? Oh, she's on vacation. Allie's on vacation. Oh, Chan. Oh, she's not leaving until Sunday. Okay, so now everybody's caught up on her vacation plans. I had not played the horror game Outlast. What is it on PS4? Because that's all I have. So if it's on PS4, I can give it a shot. I'm the one in their 67s. Really? No way. I don't believe it. Bam. Here we go. Davey with another thing. What do you think of the opening credits? To me, they were so hypnotic with the stark red black, as if they were cleansing you for the real world and putting you in a trance. I think that the whole introduction to the film, like the film starts off 4:3, like you're shooting Super 8. and then slowly widens out and rolls the credits. And I like that. I like when films do that. When I was doing Never Hike Alone, I was going back and researching films from the 70s and sort of trying to make a classic film, because I thought that there was a translation from films that were made in the 70s to now, like a sort of a guerrilla style in a way. And I, there's something about the credits rolling at the front of the film that may just make it feel like you're sitting in and you're about to watch a show. It's like, I always thought that that was interesting. Like, they used to do that in old movies. You'd have like just a straight up cards at the beginning of the movie where it was like, get ready for the show, and here's everybody that's in it, and get ready, and here we go. I always like that type of presentation. I've been digging the whole marketing scheme of it, the lettering, the color scheme. I thought they chose, the stark red and black stuff. Those, I love that, and I think that all that aesthetic, you probably see some similarities in the stuff that I do with Never Hike Alone, because that's like the style I like. So definitely loving all that. Don't forget, Adam, don't forget to share and hit the like button. Thank you, buddy. Max Parker wants thoughts on 2009 remake. We're not going to do that right now. Maybe later. What do I think about the Halloween portal? What is the Halloween portal? I got to look this up. I don't know what the Halloween portal is. Is it like Jason's universe? Halloween portal. I don't know what that is, so you're gonna have to explain it to me in the chat. Let me see. How long is this? Boom, there we go. Okay. So yeah, I mean, that's basically my roundabout kind of thoughts on Longlegs as spoiler free. So moving forward, I'm going to be a little bit more spoilery. Things might slip up. So if you are going to see the film, I would say either tune out, see you next week, or wait till the end of the movie, or wait till the end of the show, and for other stuff. But I would say that I think the end of the film, I don't know, and I'm not going to jump into spoilers. Actually, we're not going to do that. We're gonna keep it there. A couple other things I want to bring up before I kind of call it for the night, before I start taking questions, is the Gotham Noir project is within 50 hours of closing, so that's a little over 2 days. It's just about halfway through. It just crossed 40% funding, and to make up 60% funding in the last 48 hours would be pretty special. I think we can make it happen. I know there's only about 8 people in this chat right now, but if everyone tomorrow could just take the Kickstarter link, if someone could throw that in the chat for us, maybe Undead, you could do that for me. Let's get that going. Davey, you too, you're a producer. I think that everyone at Lux Media ran a fantastic campaign. I mean, the stuff they put out there looked stellar. I mean, they were doing way more than I've ever had to do for Never Hike Alone, putting in a lot of effort. And I really commend them on what they've done. I think that, the results so far don't match what I think that they're capable of. And I believe in them, and I want other people to believe in them, and they're going to get another chance. We're working on some ideas of, just in case this doesn't go through by, Sunday, that we're going to find a way to sort of make this work for them. Obviously they've been getting their costume work done. They've been doing other things. And I think since people have seen the costumes and they understand who the killer was, and if you don't know who the killer is yet, go check out the Womp Stomp Films Instagram page. Go check out the Lux Media YouTube channel. They have a great reveal of who the killer is and who from the Rogues Gallery is going to be showing up in Gotham Noir. And you're going to see the costume work, and you're going to see the costume work that, Chris is going to be as Batman, what Sarah's going to be as Catwoman. That stuff is coming in. I think once we were able to share more of that stuff in motion, we're going to start, pulling more people in. So I'm really feeling for them. But in the meantime, if you haven't backed the campaign yet, definitely make sure you go check out Gotham Noir on Kickstarter. It closes on Sunday. I say it's got 60% to go, but guess what? That's roughly, I think, $40,000 in US or $30,000 US. Less than that, because if they're, I'll figure it out. The math in my head, I don't see them in front of me right now. But either way, we could totally raise that in 24 hours, because Womp Stomp Films has before. We have. Never Hike Alone 2 did it. And Jason Rising, I know, got up there. Dylan's New Nightmare got up there. So I think that, if you guys can kind of help us spread the word tomorrow and the next couple of days, that would be huge. Well, the Halloween portal. You guys are talking about something I don't know what it is. They have to keep up with the Jason universe. So I'm guessing that Halloween portal is the opposite of the Jason universe. And now this is just getting silly. Max Parker, remake Jason versus Ghost Jason would be good. Oh, it's just Jimmy Hot saying, hated David Deathray. Yeah, maybe we actually could do that. Jordan Harvey is cosplay Jason Voorhees. We actually might work on a 2009 fan film with him. We have an idea that I think is really good. I'd love to see that kind of go. So I'll be leaving for a wedding tomorrow. So I got to pack up in a little bit and I got to get up to Vermont. But let's go right to Q&A. If anybody has any questions from this week, let's jump into that now and we'll just see what we got. To go back and just really quickly, my thoughts on the Friday the 13th, 2009 remake. I don't know if you're just revving me up, but I famously am not a huge fan of it. And I just find that it just did the same old things for the Friday the 13th franchise. It didn't push it any further and it didn't fix any of the story issues. So the point of remaking it seemed null and void. You know, it was sort of like, let's just do the same thing over again, but it didn't result in multiple films being made. So I've always held that against it. But other than that, I've cooled on it over the years. I don't mind if people love it. Like everybody loves different ones. So it's great. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, let's throw a shout out to Davey Deathray. I don't know when his next show is coming up, but Davey, good friend of ours, fellow producer on Gotham Noir, and all around film nerd. Him and his wife Kate talk about the movies just like we do here. I guess there's not much more to say about Longlegs. I think it's one of those ones where it's definitely a classic film where you say you got to see it for yourself. And I think that's why I don't want to dive into spoilers tonight, because I think everyone's going to have a unique experience with it, which I think is what film needs more of. I mean, certain people I know didn't love it. I was kind of mixed on it. I actually want to see it again. Halfway through the film, I actually got a headache. I don't know what from, maybe from walking there, or maybe just because of some of the quick cutting, or maybe because it was late and I'm an old man now and my eyes were straining. But I would love to sit down and really kind of study this film one more time and see some of the things that I missed along the way, because I certainly missed some stuff with Black Coats for sure. I heard Vermont is wonderful this time of year. I love a white Christmas. It's not a white Christmas up there right now. It has been so hot in New England. I think that's why we lost power the other day and we went out. But it has been brutal out here. And I've been working outside for all summer. And it is like every time you go outside, it's like dancing on the sun. Make sure that you're liking and subscribing for future episodes. So since no more questions are coming in, I'm just going to sort of wrap it up for this week, keeping it short. Like I said, got a pack for next week, but this was great. I hope everyone, heads out to Longlegs, checks it out, support independent cinema. If you haven't already, actually, before I go, behind the scenes is still in progress. Update on Never Hike Alone 2 stuff. Behind the scenes is still in progress, but coming along. It's actually starting to come together. So I'm hoping to have it done by the end of the month. So is the final cut of Never Hike Alone 2. Not final cut, Never Hike Alone 2, the final cut, but the final version with fixed credits and a couple of fixes for things that went, a couple of tweaks in the film, an idea that we added kind of along the way. So that's going to be exclusive for the Blu-ray. It's also going to be exclusive for people who got digital downloads. So if you received your digital downloads and you notice that your credit hasn't been fixed yet, well, that's coming. We'll replace that file when that happens, and we'll make sure that goes. And then we're going to start shipping out everything soon. I have some space that I'm clearing out at our family's warehouse to kind of lay everything out and start doing some inventory and kind of getting that stuff going now that we know the Blu-rays are in reach, which is really good. I think the party's starting next door, so it is a good time to kind of leave. So anyway, that's in progress. I'll have more updates soon once I get back from the wedding, and a couple other things are kind of doing. Other things are going on behind the scenes too. That's still going on. It's a crazy ride, but things are looking great. I'll have more updates on that as the weeks progress. Hopefully some more good news to share. So other than that, thank you for everybody for coming out. I hope you have a great night, great weekend. Please stay safe out there. And until next time, I will see you on the trails.